Okay, we are looking at process costing average cost method. And this is a typical format, work in process beginning is 5,000 units. We're going to first account for those units and the units in the ending inventory. Also during the period, 180,000 units were started. We also will account for units transferred out to the next department, and I'm going to show you how to determine those units. First off, we're just going to do some real basic T accounting. I like to use T accounts in this case. We're just going to draw ourselves a nice little T account here. And this is our work in process. So let's transfer some numbers into the T account. So we know we have 5,000 units in the beginning inventory. We're told that we have 10,000 units in the ending inventory. We know that 180, and I'm going to put this kind of high up here, 180,000 units were started into production. So just by doing our math, 5,000 in the beginning inventory, $180,000 started, or 180,000 units started, with 10,000 units remaining in some condition of incomplete, would indicate that we transferred out 175,000 units. Okay, now what we want to do next is account for these units. The 5,000 plus the 5,000 plus the 180,000 units is often referred to as units to be accounted for. In other words, we need to determine what happened to these units. Well, 175,000 went out, 10,000 remains in work in process. So these units down here, the ending inventory units, are in some state of incomplete. The 175,000 units are fully complete 100% as they pertain to, in this case, materials and conversion costs. And remember, our conversion cost is labor plus overhead. Okay, so the first thing we got to do is calculate our equivalent units. I like to put down here that direct materials and then put conversion costs here. Now we're just doing units. So the first thing that we want to account for are the units transferred out. So I'm just going to put a little TO here. Units transferred out. That's 175,000. They're 100% complete. So that represents 175,000 equivalent units for direct materials and conversion costs. Next, we account for the units in the ending inventory. That's 10,000 units here. Now, in our problem here, and we're interested only in the ending inventory percentages, because if we were using the FIFO method, we would be using both beginning and inventory to determine our equivalent units. But in this case, we're using average cost. So we got direct materials, which are 100% complete. That pretty much means that they are entered into the process at the beginning of the period. And conversion costs are complete only to the tune of 30%. All right, so that means that they're probably entered at a fairly even pace into the production process. Our ending inventory is 10,000 units times 100%. So for direct materials, we have 10,000 units equivalent. Conversion cost is going to be something slightly different. We're going to have 10,000 units times the 30%, or 3,000 units. Now we add these units up, and this is our total equivalent units. So I'm just going to put a little total here. So our total equivalent units for direct materials is 185,000. And our total equivalent units for conversion costs is 178,000. Our next step is to apply costs and determine what our cost per equivalent units are. So we learn right up front that we have $1,500 in our beginning inventory for materials, and I want to keep these lined up here. So costs, I don't know how I got that shape in there, but here we go. Costs at the beginning of the process for materials, we had $1,500 and $4,000 for conversion costs. Now, during this process, we added some costs. So right here, we're going to put costs added during this period. So we've got 54,000 in material costs and 352,000 in conversion costs have been added during this period. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add these up, and so we're going to get $356,000 in total costs. And here we got erase that. Okay, it looks like we got 500 here and 55,500. And then what we want to do is we want to take our equivalent units and divide this by our equivalent units. This is going to give us our cost per equivalent unit, and that will equal 30 cents. We'll do the same thing here. We'll pull down our equivalent units of 178,000, and that's going to give us equivalent units of $2. So our total cost per equivalent unit is $2.30. What we now want to do is apply our cost per equivalent unit to our units that we have up here represented in this T account. So of the units transferred out, that's 175,000 times the $2.30. That means 402,500 transferred out to the next department or into finished goods, whichever it is. That cost is assigned to that 175,000 units. Now we want to work on the ending inventory. The ending inventory is 10,000 units. So we're going to go ending inventory materials. We've got ending inventory is 10,000 units times 30 cents, or $3,000. Okay, that's a portion of the cost associated with that 10,000 units. Now, the ending inventory for conversion is 3,000 units times $2. or $6,000 for a total of $9,000 total in the ending inventory associated with these 10,000 units. Okay, as a double check on our, or what we would call a reconciliation of our work in process account, we know these 5,000 units that were in the beginning had $5,500 in beginning costs. That's the total here, as you see. And then we had some costs that were added, which is the 352 plus the 54, which is a 406,000. So now that we have all these costs, so the 406 is associated with 180,000 units that were started. The 5,500 is associated with the 500 that we had in beginning inventory. If we take that 406 plus the 5,500 and we subtract out the 9,000 in the ending inventory that we just figured out a few minutes ago, we come up with 402,500. And our T account is in balance. Debits equal the credits going out. And we've done a complete process costing system. Let's review here real quick. We evaluated our units. We calculated equivalent units. We applied costs to those equivalent units to get a cost per equivalent unit. And then we applied those costs to the ending inventory and the units transferred out. And as you look at the cost of production report, which we'll do now, we will see something very quick. Okay, in this cost of production report, I created a template, and it works pretty good. First off, we just fill in everything that's yellow requires an input. So we've got 5,000 units beginning. We added 180,000 units to the process. We have 4,000 or 10,000 units in the ending inventory. Our ending inventory is 100% complete for direct materials and 30% complete for conversion costs. And here you see our cost, or our equivalent units of 185,000 for direct materials and 178,000 for conversion. Now we add our costs that we had in our T account, 1,500 for materials and 4,000 for conversion costs. Costs added during the period was 54,000 and 352,000 overhead and labor costs were added, and we get our cost per equivalent unit. And down here we can see $402,500 in cash, or not cash, but in costs, were transferred out, and that would require a journal entry. $9,000 worth of costs are remaining in the ending inventory, and total cost assigned for the unit or for the department is $411,500, and we reconciled that amount to get this ending report. Now, if anybody is watching this video and wants this template, it's very handy. You may have to update it here if they break out labor costs and conversion costs. In that case, you just add another column, copy the formulas over, and everything will work out just fine. Just send me an email and I'll send you the template.